Hello, this is Eric Mickelson with number 3 in reading a story to my grandson Archer. Tonight's story is called Family Reunion. And in the story there's a character named Wally the Waterloo Boy. That's why I have my Waterloo Boy toy tractor out with me. This Waterloo Boy toy tractor was bought for me by my son Heath Mickelson at the Dale Svensgaard auction sale in Thief River Falls a few years ago. So I wanted to bring it out tonight when I read the book, Family Reunion. In an old shed on Bob Fowler's farm, there was a lot of old farm tractors that hadn't been used for a long time. Though it was warm and dry inside the shed, there was dust all over everything and big cobwebs hung in the corners. All the tractors were good friends. When they were alone, they talked and visited among themselves, just like people do. Wally, the Waterloo Boy tractor, usually started the conversations. He liked to talk about the old times on the Fowler farm. And there's a picture of Wally. I was the first tractor Grandpa Fowler ever had, Wally would say proudly. He was just a young man back in 1923 when he brought me home. I hadn't been here very long before Grandpa Fowler put me to work running the threshing machine in the oat field. He and I worked a lot of hot summer days threshing oats. He needed lots of oats for his horses, you see. The neighbor used to come by and watch me work, and then they would ask Grandpa Fowler if he'd bring me over to their farms and help them with their threshing too, and I was glad to do it. Donald the Model D tractor stood next to Wally. He was low and strong with his big yellow wheels with iron lugs. He had a steel seat and a beautiful set of fenders, and he liked to brag about the number of acres that he could plow in a day. One day back in 1930, Grandpa Fowler started me up just when the sun was coming up, and when we quit that night, we had plowed 15 acres. I remember lots of times he would take me to the county fair and enter me in a plowing match. I won lots of trophies for him. They're up in the big house in a nice case, he told them all. There's Donald right there. Across the way was a Model A tractor. His name was Ace. He was sleek and trim. Grandpa Fowler had let his son Bob run him and help him with the cultivating. Bob was just a teenager when he first started running me, Ace said, smiling as he remembered those days. He cultivated corn and beans acre after acre. He never had to stop to give me a rest like he did with the horses. The horses used to stand in the pasture and whinny at us when we went past. I think they were really glad that they didn't have to work in the heat and the bitey flies anymore. Bob was sure a good tractor operator. He always kept me clean and greased and put away in the shed at night. In another corner was the little Model M tractor. He didn't like his name, so everybody called him Mighty. He was small, but he could do many things that no one ever made fun of him for being smaller than all the rest. When one of the tractors would ask him about some of the things he used to do for Grandpa Fowler and Bob, he would say in his quiet, proud little voice, "Well, I mowed hay in the roadside ditches, and I moved lots of snow and dirt with the blade that they used to put in front of me. I plowed the garden for Grandpa Fowler, and I planted his sweet corn. One time, Bob Fowler entered me in a tractor pull with lots of other tractors about my size, and I outpulled them all." There's the little Model M, Mighty. Summers and winters came and went for a lot of years, and then one day the big door opened and let in a bright stream of sunlight. A little boy and an old man stepped in. The little boy asked, "What's in here, Grandpa?" Grandpa Fowler stood looking at all the old tractors. He remembered using them when he was a young man. "Did you really use all these old tractors, Grandpa?" the little boy would ask. "I sure did, Tad. It was a long time ago. Your dad and I farmed lots of years with them. It was hard work, but they did a good job. When the new tractors came along, we just put these old-timers in the shed to give them a well-deserved rest." "Won't we ever use them again, Grandpa?" Tad asked. "You bet. Your dad and I are taking the old tractors to Waterloo, Iowa to show them off." There's going to be a family reunion just for old tractors. But first, we got to get them cleaned up a little, Grandpa Fowler told Tad. They sure have a lot of dust on them, Grandpa. They'll look just great when we spruce them up a little, Grandpa Fowler said. You can help me, and if your dad says it's okay, you can go to Waterloo with us. And there they are, looking at the old tractors. Grandpa and Tad's dad soon came back with lots of old rags, soap and water, and paint and brushes. They washed the dirt away and added a little green or yellow paint where it was needed. The old tractors began to shine and twinkle. They looked at each other with pride when they saw how good everyone had looked. When they were all done, Bob Fowler backed up the semi-truck and started loading up all the tractors very carefully. They all waved goodbye to the new tractors, who weren't going. Goodbye, they hollered. We're going to Waterloo. We're going to have a family reunion. At Waterloo, the old tractors looked around with amazement at all the tractors that looked just like them. There were people selling parts and toys and all sorts of interesting things. It was like a farm show and a state fair all rolled into one. Grandpa Fowler's tractors drew a lot of attention because they were in such good shape and they were so well taken care of. They were very proud when people came along and yelled, "Hey, look at these great old timers." After a few exciting days, it was time to go home. The reunion was over. All the way home, the old tractors talked about the wonderful time they have. "Do you suppose we'll ever get to do it again?" asked Mighty. Wally, who was the oldest, said, "Yeah, we'll probably go again sometime. It'll be something to look forward to." Ace, the Model A, said, "I can't wait to tell all our friends about the things we've seen. Do you think they'll believe us?" Donald, the old Model D, said, "Sure they'll believe us, and if they don't, I'll make 'em believe it," he boasted. He was always so proud of being so strong. They all laughed at him, and then they were silent on the way home. It was quiet in the old shed again. All the tractors were back in their places, and the dust began to settle down on them again. The old tractors told their friends about Waterloo and the family reunion, and they thought their own thoughts about old times and new times and the things they had done. They were very content to be snug and dry and to rest in the old shed on Farmer Fowler's farm. The end.